During the time that I was part of pagan Christianity, which were only a few years, I would dare to say from age 14 till 17, probably, or no, it's 16. Well, it's 14 till 16 actually. I wasn't long in pagan Christianity before I really saw through what it really was. I still had contact with some pagan Christians, but over the years that disappeared. At around age 20, I almost had no real contact anymore with pagan Christians, only hi, bye, the distance things. One thing they often said in pagan Christianity, or what the pagan apostles often said, we need to become like the Church of Acts. In the book of Acts, you can read how powerful the apostles were, how daily hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people, came to Christ. They became born again. They were quite powerful. And they overcame violence, they cast out devils, sickness it vanished from them. At the same time, there was a lot of persecution against them also. But that's one thing those pagan apostles don't tell them, that there was a lot of persecution, a lot of violence coming against them. But pagan pastors I've seen often talk about the church in a bad state. We need to reform, reform. If many of those false prophets come with false revivals and say something good is about to happen, well, it's the same old stuff that's repeating itself. Listen, the believers in the book of Acts, coming all the way to the Apostle Paul, let me tell you why they were so successful. Let me tell you why they could proceed with such ease. I don't mean their circumstances were easy, but they proceeded in ease in the supernatural walk because of the following. They knew how to weed out predators. Okay, you want to repeat that? I'll repeat it. They knew how to weed out predators. Yes, they knew how to do it. When Ananias and Sapphira came, those were not believers, those were agents of darkness, sent by the shadow government to cause harm amongst the believers. That's why they lied about the property they sold. So they could have some money behind. Now listen, why would they want to have some money behind? Why would they want to hide finances from the believers? Because they had a plan, and their plan was evil. Peter, who was the first pastor of the believers, he looked at Ananias and he asked, is this the amount of money you sold your property for? Ananias lied. And Peter made plain, you lied against God. Ananias fell down to the ground dead. Sapphira, his wife, came, not knowing what happened to the husband. She lied also, and Peter decreed, the same that happened to your husband will happen to you. And she fell down to the ground and died. When the news of this spread around, a lot of the pagans became terrified of the believers, and none of them, for a while, dared to do anything against the believers. That's the type of power they walk in. When Simon, the wizard, tried to purchase the power of the Holy Spirit with money, he wanted to use the power of the Holy Spirit for his wizardry and all of that. The apostles that were there, they told him to his face. I'm paraphrasing now, but this is what they made plain unto them. Go to hell with your garbage. That's not how the kingdom of God works. You need to repent because you're not right with God. They were quite plain towards him. They were straight up. They knew how to weed out predators. There was one church, I believe it was in Colossus, I believe it was the church of the Colossians, in which they burned their books of witchcraft. And the word of all those books was a lot of money. Those believers knew how to weed out predators and how to disable predators from having access to them. Look, There are many cults out there that come with practical stuff, but only to trap you in a cult. Now, I don't have a cult. I don't have a church building. I don't ask for tithes and offerings. I don't do any of that. I'm here to tell you as it is. Many believers today are stuck in pagan Christianity. And the reason they're stuck in pagan Christianity is because they don't look at the bigger picture. And because they don't look at the bigger picture, they can't discern people correctly. And because they can't discern people correctly, they can't weed out predators. It's very important to be able to weed out predators. And with weeding out, I don't mean that you take their life and remove them from the earth. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about removing yourself from predators or blocking predators out of your affairs. And blocking them out of affairs doesn't have to be that you assault them or go off at them or confront them. Just in a smart manner, make sure you lose them. I say it as it is. Many people that claim the name of Christ today, they don't know how to weed out predators. And it's very important in your walk by faith to know how to weed out predators. Look, I'm going to give a little history lesson here. Well, not really a history lesson, it's a parable, but it's based on a historic event. We were going to the 8th century now in Sicily. At the time, Sicily was ran by a Catholic king who was located elsewhere in Italy. And there were some sojourners that came from Egypt. And they asked for a place to lodge. So the local authorities allowed them to lodge. The next year, more sojourners came. And in the third year, there were some refugees that came to Sicily. They came from Egypt because Egypt was under attack by the Mohammedans. So the people in Sicily thought, you know what? We are a Christian nation. We follow Christ, so we need to show kindness and mercy to those people. And that's true. There was one individual amongst the Sicilians that said, beware of those people. I don't trust them. The others in the community told them, shut up. Be hospitable towards them. Be Christ-like. And the individual told them, listen, even though I'm not a believer myself, I know Christ is real. Even though I need to repent, I know I messed up. Please listen to me. Those men that came as refugees 3 years earlier, they were here to lodge. And when they were here, I saw them looking around as if they were spying on us. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I just thought they're just sojourners, so they'll be gone soon. 2 years later, here again, as refugees. And now they brought all the families with them. If they're fleeing out of Egypt, why didn't they flee to Libya? Why didn't they flee to Ethiopia? Why didn't they flee to Cyprus? There are many other places where they could have fled. Why did they took the whole dangerous journey to come all the way to Sicily? From the Nile Delta all the way to Sicily, it's like 10 days on a ship. And there are quite some storms on the Mediterranean at this time. Why would they risk their lives on sea, coming all the way here, if there were far easier place for them to go to? The people didn't want to listen to this guy. First of all, he was not a believer, he was unsaved. He knew Christ was real, but he wasn't born again yet. But this unbeliever had more discernment than many of those people that claimed to follow Christ. Because that unbeliever knew very well that many of those people weren't really with Christ. They just called themselves Christian due to the title. He knew that the real believers were few on Sicily. There were some believers that told the unbeliever, you're right, this doesn't add up. That unbeliever soon became born again. But even before he became born again, he was realistic. And because he was realistic, he found out the Christ was the way, the truth, and the life. But besides that, he also saw the situation for what it really was. Now, to make a long story short, afterwards, within 20 years, there was a full assault of the Mohammedans on Sicily. And for a short period, Sicily became a Mohammedan territory or a Muslim territory. And by the way, the term Muslim means citizen of a Mohammedan regime. But okay, I'm not going into those terms right now. I'm using this as a parable. Now, it didn't really happen exactly as I said in this parable, but things like that happened. And that's how the Mohammedan Empire expanded. Now, remember this parable. In this parable that I just gave unto you, that unbeliever who received the gospel, he wasn't born again yet, but he received the gospel. The seed was growing. He was alert. That unbeliever knew that Christ commanded us to be merciful, but he also knew that Christ told us to be wise as serpents. That unbeliever paid more attention to Christ's words than those people that claimed to follow Christ. And that unbeliever saw that those so-called refugees were predators that aimed at taking over their island and exploit them. Now look, there are times unbelievers, I'm not saying all the time, because unbelievers fall for a lot of crap. That's why the world is in the state it is now, because unbelievers fall for a lot of crap. True. But there are times some unbelievers have far more discernment than believers when it comes to noticing predators. I say when it comes to noticing predators, I'm not saying those unbelievers have discernment in many things, but when it comes to locating and identifying predators, some unbelievers are far more knowledgeable than believers. Look, Christ said, I sent you as sheep among wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Now, what does a wolf do? A wolf is a predatory animal. It hunts and devours its prey. But Christ talked about wolves in sheep's clothing. Now, in nature out there, you will not find any wolf in sheep's clothing. Wolves in nature, they come, they hunt, they devour the prey, whether it's a sheep or a goat or whatever it is. They eat the meat and they leave the carcass behind. However, Christ talked about the type of wolf that not only do they eat the meat from the carcass, they also take away the skin of the sheep and put it on and pretend to be the sheep. So that's identity theft. So Christ used that as a parable to warn the believers that there are people that will commit identity theft just to get amongst you, but they won't be there for the right reasons. They will be there to exploit you and to devour you. And here's another thing. Some of those people may not come with the conscious intention to rob and to exploit you, but eventually that's what they will do. Why? Because they're so focused on themselves that they will exploit you and harm you in the long run in seeking gratification for their own expectations. People often pay attention to what Christ said on the Sermon of the Mount, love enemies, pray for those that despitefully use you, all of that. Christ said far more things. He said, be wise as serpents. But many people who follow Christ are not wise at all. Look, in this video, in the remainder of it, or better said this audio clip, I'm going to warn you for a type of predator or a type of wolf most never notice. And here's another thing. A lot of times when you talk about predators, people automatically think of men. Men are the predators, men. Of course, there are predatory men out there, but there are also quite some predatory women out there also, who, if given the chance, would exploit and ruin everyone in their path. And that needs to be discussed also. Look, the type of predator that many don't recognized as a predator is what I call the professional victim. You may have other terms for it. Some call it the eternal victim, or well, one with a victim role, or whatever label you use for such people. In this video, I'll call it the professional victim. The professional victim is an individual who refuses to actively participate in solutions, neither for themselves and especially not for others. They don't want to participate in any solution. They just complain, murmur, and they act out in passive aggression. And their passive aggression is harmful. That is what they do. Yet at the same time, they claim they're the ones that have been done dirty. It can be that they've been done dirty once in their past or somewhere in their lifetime. But they use this as a pass and as a carte blanche, not to be accountable. Look, you have people that have been through some traumatic stuff and they need help in recovery. So they may be stuck in feeling like a victim. You have such people, but such people just need help with the right coaching or with the right push. Those people will realize, hold on a minute, this can't continue forever. I need to be delivered. But then you also have people who, even though they may not appear to be that it's dysfunctional, they just don't want to participate in any solution. The only thing they are concerned about is the comfort they receive from others. It's all about them receiving comfort from others. But they having to give comfort to others, no way. Forget about it. They are quick to feel upset and offended when others don't comply with their natural obligations towards them. But when it comes to them complying with their obligation towards others, they always have a reason why they need to be built out. That's what I want to say. Such predators always want to be built out of their natural obligations towards others. But they will never build out someone else unless they can benefit from it. I'm telling you, such people are predators. Let me give a parable to you. You have Mark and Kimberly, a couple, they're married, and they have a household of 2 little children. And Kimberly has this aunt that comes to their home from time to time. Not every day, but from time to time. And the aunt helps them out. And the aunt notices that there is this neighbor that befriended Kimberly. And then the aunt tells Mark, that neighbor of yours, how long has she been friends with your wife? And Mark said, well, for over 2 years, they're just close together. And the aunt tells him, Mark, get rid of that woman. Don't allow her to come to your home. She will bring ruin onto you and your family. She will bring havoc in your marriage. Mark looked at his aunt and asked, Aunt, why are you saying things like that? And the aunt told him, look, that woman, I heard her talk to your wife. She brings down all the other people in her life. Not only her exes, but also her father. She brings down everyone in her life. It's not once that I heard her do that. You know, I come in regularly, and every time I overheard her conversations with your wife, it's always bringing down others to give the hint that she's been done dirty and that she needs sympathy. She is feeding off the sympathy of others. So last week when I was here, I made contact with her, just talked to her, and she did the same thing. And she began to lie about your wife, about Kimberly. She told me that Kimberly is bothering her with sad stories about her marriage, that she keeps contacting her as if she doesn't have any friends of her own. When Mark heard this, Mark was shocked, and the aunt continued. I didn't confront her, Mark, but I realized then what she really was. She is the loner living there on her own. Nobody wants to have anything to do with her because how bad she treats people. And now she's claiming to be a victim with your wife, and now she's using your wife to get sympathy. Now she used your wife to get sympathy from me. It didn't work. I'm telling you, Mark, that woman is a predator. She is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Kick her out of your life. When Mark heard all of this, he informed his wife, and the wife broke all contact with that neighbor. Soon afterwards, the police came at the house due to domestic violence. One of her boyfriends came to the home and beat her up because uh, she gave him syphilis or something like that. Look, in that parable I just gave unto you, that neighbor was a predator. But she was not a predator in the sense that she came well dressed, overconfident, with a plan. She didn't came over in a she didn't came with this dominant sexual seduction that predators that we think predators come with. She came like a wounded sheep, or she pretended to be a wounded sheep. And in a disguise as a wounded sheep, she exploited the positive energy of Kimberly. Meanwhile, she dumped her waste on Kimberly. That's what she was doing. She was sowing seeds in Kimberly's mind by telling all those sad stories. At the same time, she wanted sympathy and good attention from Kimberly. She didn't concern herself at all with Kimberly's safety, whether Kimberly was able to handle all those sad stories, or whether Kimberly rather not hear all those sad things. She didn't even consider whether maybe Kimberly was having a rough marriage and she was the one needing support. No, she wasn't concerned about it at all. When she pretended to be concerned, was only to remain in Kimberly's good graces. She was a predator. She was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, don't you know that there are pagan churches, also Babylon churches, that teach you that you have to have unrestrained compassion for others? Christ never taught that. Yes, you should have compassion with others. You should have empathy for others and all of that. However, your empathy and your compassion must be Christ-centered. Christ did not walk around giving unrestrained sympathy, empathy, nor compassion to other people. He didn't do it. Where people get this idea from, that you need to have unrestrained compassion, empathy, and sympathy, well, I know where I have it from. I have it from demons. It's not from Christ. Christ didn't do it. He didn't. Just like this idea that turning the other cheek means you need to allow people to abuse you, walk over you, and destroy you with violence. Christ walked the earth, and people didn't dare to lay hands on him, not because he was violent, but because he walked in power. He overruled violence. And turn the other cheek means that you look at the situation, you look at the danger, and you exploit the danger to get yourself out of the situation. Meanwhile, also exposing the danger and the injustice for what it really is. That is what it means to turn the other cheek. For example, in ancient times, here's where Christ gets this parable from. The left hand was used to wipe your butt after you did your thing. You get what I'm saying? So you never use that hand socially. You use your right hand. So the right hand was also used to humiliate people. You slap them. If you slap someone with the inside of your hand, with the back of your hand, it means they're below you. You do that to slaves or to enemies. To slap someone with the inside of your hand, you did that to equals, to people you respected, people that just need some correction. Well, that happened. Or if someone smacked you on one cheek, with the back of their hand, with the right hand, and you turn the other cheek, that means you would have to use either the left hand, which would be an insult onto them, an embarrassment onto them, or they would have to use their right hand, but use the inside of their hand. So that means they have to acknowledge you as an equal. So then you trick them. Now they're stuck. Now, did Christ mean that you literally have to turn the other cheek to other people? No, it was a parable to tell you how to overrule injustice. But okay, apart from that, I was talking about recognizing predators. The believers in the book of Acts, they knew how to weed out predators. That's why they remained healthy over time as a congregation. There were congregations, smaller ones, that didn't remain healthy. There were many predators coming in, like with the Corinthians. And that's why there were even believers dying before their time over there, due to sickness. Paul wrote about it. It's very important to weed out predators from amongst you. And the type of predator I described in this video, or in this audio recording, is the predator that comes as a wounded sheep. But he or she is not a wounded sheep at all. They're just using the identity of a wounded sheep, probably a sheep they've wounded, to get good stuff from you. Christ said once that when an evil spirit departs from someone, because evil spirit has been cast out, the evil spirit goes to dry places. Now, what can be a dry place? Like in the desert or in some ruinous town or some ghost town. The evil spirits go to dry place to wander around, to find some rest. The evil spirit will not find rest because, of course, it's a negative entity. So the evil spirit wants to go back in feeding off of someone. And in this case, evil spirit likely will want to return back to the individual he possessed. But this time, he doesn't want to be cast out again, so he goes to 7 other evil spirits which are more wicked than he is, and it will help him to get in to possess an individual, and now as a gang of 8 it will possess an individual, and it will be worse off with an individual than before. Because when evil spirit returns with those 7 others, they will find that individual has cleansed. It has been cleansed, has moved on. And Christ said the same way those evil spirits operate, the same it is with this wicked generation. So what Christ made plain is that there are predators out there that operate just like evil spirits do. Yes, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, we hear that often, but Christ told us there are predatory people out there that operate just like evil spirits. They're not demons. They're human beings, but they're wicked human beings. Some of them are even reprobates already. Nevertheless, you have them. Now, one example of it would be like this. You hung out. Let's say you have an uncle, and that uncle had no contact with you at all. He never concerned himself with your existence. The times you tried to contact him as a family member, he turned you down. 15 years later, he suddenly calls you, wants to connect with you. Why? What happened? That uncle, he's going through a rough time now. He has been divorced. His wife and kids want to see him. And now he needs a place where he's comfortable. And here's the thing. You moved on with your life. He, after his wife kicked him out, he hung around to try places. He went to prostitutes, he went to gambling, he went to a lot of places, try places just to get some relief. The relief was short-lived, as all relief is. His wife nor his kids want to take him back. So now he reminds himself that you existed. And he knew you have a high income, your life is going well. So now he wants to get access to you just to get stuff from you. But he also has a girlfriend now, who's far younger than him, and, well, They both plot how to get access to you. And the girlfriend even wants to take you out personally if it's necessary. So hold on a minute. 15 years ago, when that uncle ignored you and you moved on, he was cast out. But now that he doesn't have his rest, now he wants to return from where he has been cast out, from you, because you moved on. And if that uncle would again ask you again, your life is over. Let's say now you are wise and you recognize this attitude is wrong. You keep it at a distance, you're doing the right thing. Look, it's very important to recognize predators. And predators aren't always people from far. They're often people close to you who just don't want to move forward. Listen, if someone never wants to look at the bigger picture, if someone has no intention of evaluating anything, if they have no intention to face anything in life, it doesn't have to be something traumatic, something very big. Even small things, if they're not willing to face anything in life, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes when there's conflict, it's really not you. That's also something you have to face. But there are people that don't want to face anything. They just want to be relieved, so they flee to be left alone, or they attack. When you have such folks that never want to face anything, and they have no intention of getting out of this self-imprisonment, I'm telling you, they are predators. The only reason such an individual would want to be around you is that they can feed off of you. And once they're comfortable feeding off of you, they'll become possessive of you. And when you want to remove them, or they'll turn on you. They'll begin to blackmail you. They will use violence on you. But often, when they begin to use violence on you, it's only then you realize something's wrong with this individual. I'm telling you, learn how to weed out predators. It's very important. Well, that's it for now. Agree with Christ and be at peace.